live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the Lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the Lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner, Mark Wages, and you are on the Lifeboat. So, we had some fun last night, didn't we? I mean, it was that was really a cool show. We got a chance to, to talk about some people that really need to get slapped around, and it's a difficult thing to do. There were some comments that I missed that I didn't see. There was a couple that really kind of, I don't know, I dropped the ball massively, as a host, and that happens. It's one of those things that sometimes is just really kind of difficult to keep up with the conversation when,
you got to throw my name in there with you too, because I'm watching it too. So it's partly my
fault. And here's the thing, and that's fair, but especially on nights like last night where, it gets passionate, and everybody in there is sort of passionate. But there was a comment from Matt Bush, and I hope Matt makes it back. If he doesn't, boy, it's sad, because he left a comment that said, my papa was a Vietnam vet and they told him it was a safe, non-addictive. He died from aspiration of his vomit. The Sacklers deserve the death penalty as well, as my baby brother was ruled Sackler contributed. Going through class action lawsuits is emotionally difficult. The least they could do is hold the Sacklers accountable. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, everything I said last night is blah, 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 blah. That right there is sort of the crux of the whole thing right there. There are people out there that are hurting, and I'm sorry to Matt. I wish I had caught that, when it was going on, because it is such a great comment, and it really does point to exactly what is going on, with this family. There's a couple of other things I want to hit on from last night. Number one, truthfully, I got the number of emails I got last night rivals almost any video we've done, at least since coming back. Really got bombarded. I took into the wee hours of the morning to get through all of them, and I love that. I'm not complaining in the slightest. I love it when everybody is so engaged that they feel the need to reach out after the stream. And most of them, were weighing in on one side or the other of the medical assisted treatment, and that's great. Everybody has an opinion. And then I came across an email, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't want to quote the person. I really don't. This is anonymity. And I tried reaching out to this individual to say, would it be cool if I just read your email? Unfortunately, I didn't hear anything back before we went live. And if you saw me looking down a second ago, it's actually what I was trying to do, is see if maybe there was some chance at the last minute. So I'm going to paraphrase this as best as possible. But what it basically said, it started off complimenting me. and said, Captain, I really, my hat is off to you, because knowing how much the MAT has helped you in life, medical assisted treatment has helped you in life. It had to be difficult to not lose your cool and to not sort of yell at people for some of the opinions of individuals who sort of came the other direction. And I thought, wow, that's kind of nice. And then the email proceeded to tell me that as good a job as I did by not getting upset, I blew it completely. And I get emails like this often, so I continued to read, and what it basically said, and I thought this was great. The person said, unlike every single person on last night's live feed, apparently I'm the only one out there that doesn't know something about this drug. Everyone else seems to be an expert. And I thought that in and of itself was fun. But then what they said was, but I'd be willing to bet any amount of money that of the 300 people who are going to die today from opiate overdoses, that some of them got talked out of going into medical assisted treatment by other experts who knew everything about Suboxone and told them what a bad idea it was, or who knew everything about methadone and talked them out of getting into to that kind of treatment. What would have been a better choice? Going into medical assisted treatment or laying in a pine box. And then they went on in a very nice fashion to tell me what they think I should have said to individuals and how I should have said it. And that's Brandon. Thank you, my friend. He says, like and comment. Really does help the channel, and I would really appreciate that. I'm sure everyone else would as well. So here's my admonition, and take this in the spirit of which I say it. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Facts is completely something else, right? You're not entitled to your own facts. And everyone does believe, myself included, that we have a decent amount of facts behind us when we make our opinions. What I will say is that there is a group of people, a little over 16, who took the time to email me, who at least aren't talking about things they read about. These are individuals who credit this one of two substances with saving their life. And their opinions came through pretty hard. But here's what I would say. If you have an opinion that medical assisted treatment is a cop-out, or if you have an opinion that medical assisted treatment is dangerous, or that any of these drugs are awful, or blah, 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 whatever that opinion has to be, you are welcome to that opinion. God bless you for having that opinion. Now shut your cake hole. Seriously. Because the people who are listening to it, who are on the edge, right? We have a very small window of opportunity whenever somebody decides to get sober. And sharing that kind of an opinion on a platform where somebody may have shown up tonight to hear that there was a way to get sober without hurting. And that person listens to this and goes, yeah, you know what? They're right. Why would I do that? And then they go back tomorrow and they're found dead behind the wheel of a car in a parking lot, after fixing a little bit of fentanyl. Opinions are great, but what we're doing here is trying to get people sober. If you want to say, hey, you know what? I honestly don't think that stuff's a great alternative. Great. Then let's leave it at that. Yeah. It's shut the whole of the cake, says wait for it. Well played. And I'm not trying to be cold-hearted. I hope you understand that. If you want to have a debate on that, shoot me an email and I'll call you personally and we can spend a couple of hours, knocking out a good debate on this.
Let me add something real quick, Tommy.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. And this is something that me and Tommy talked about today before we came on, because this is something that we take very serious because we don't want to take somebody's, free speech or opinions and stuff like that. But when he read me what that email said, it does very much so put it directly in your face and in perspective right away. And, and when he said that and what was said in the email there, I immediately went straight, my mind, for whatever reason, maybe it's because it was kind of recent, my counselor and her son. My mind went straight there. Boom. What if, and this is just a what if because it can't happen because he's dead. The kid passed away. Okay. What if that kid had come across our show the night before that happened? And then something like that was said, and he decided, I'll just wait, do whatever. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is just trading this for that and all this and all this. And it's okay to go ahead and say your opinion, guys. That's not what Tommy's saying here. He's saying
Amen.
say it, and then there it is. It's out there. That's your opinion, and leave it alone.
Yeah.
Don't push to try to convince somebody else that that's the way that things are, because me and Tommy are not doing that here. We're telling you when we're talking about facts. When we're saying something about numbers, all these other things that we bring to you, we research this stuff. If we haven't researched it, we've known it for years because we researched it then. It's one of those things you just build up to. But somebody that's new, I call them babies in recovery. It's just kind of what I call them. That's what they are. That's what they are. They're trying to grow, because there are stages that you go through: baby, adolescence, on up to adult in recovery. That's just kind of how I look at it in my own life. But when they're in that stage, I use baby because they need coddled at some level. They need taken care of, is what I'm trying to say. And you wouldn't just go up and start screaming at a baby, "Hey, you're doing this wrong," because that baby ain't going to understand the words you're saying. You're just going to be screaming at this baby for no reason, and it's going to do nothing but terrorize the baby. And that's what happens when we push and push and push. And I didn't really think it was like that in chat last night until I read that email.
I didn't either.
I was like,
in fact, people that reached out to me, Mark, and said, "Boy, it kind of got heated." I said, "You got to be kidding. I thought that was awesome, right? That was really,
I did too.
I thought it was great stuff. It was back and forth. And then again, until I came across that email. And if you read, Tommy Burgess said, "However, why try to force your opinion on others when it differs? I mean, what is the point? I was totally against medical assisted treatment for years. I fought it. And had I not eventually accepted it, by now I'd be dead." And I'll tell you something, therein lies the rub. Without this, the number of people who would be dead are astounding. And today, 300 people are going to be dead. And if they were on this drug, they wouldn't be. That's what it comes down to. I mean, you can doctor it up, you can church it, you can, reword it, you can, in other words, there are 300 people who would not be dead today if they were taking a drug that was, blocking the receptors from being able to get high, plain and simple. And truthfully, the science behind it, a lot of what was said yesterday was purely opinion. The amount of time that we've, delved into this, you never want to say to somebody, "Nah, you're not even close," because it's just kind of a rude thing to say. I said it at the end last night, and maybe that came across, wrong, and I wasn't trying, but there are just certain things that, when they're said, if you're coming from something and saying something that's really off base, it can be dangerous. And I don't want to beat on this all night long.
No. And let me say one more thing, and then we can move on about this. I also want to say about the verbiage that sometimes we use, okay? When we use the word ignorant, we are not calling you stupid, okay? The word ignorant really just plays across a whole bunch of things, doesn't it, Tommy? I mean, wouldn't you agree with that? I mean,
it just means, lack of education on something. That doesn't make you stupid.
That is, and I get how that could come off, guys. I do. I understand. But again, it's about the tone and stuff behind that word, and that's why you have to pay attention to that. And because I did see a comment or two in there. Why are you using the word ignorance or whatever? Well, that's because that's the only way to explain it. It's either that or say, "Hey, you just don't know," or this or that. So I mean, you have to use some sort of vocabulary. But that's all I wanted to say there. We can move on from this, and it's not a big deal.
Okay.
From here on out. And I just, because I know it went off of the conversation I kind of got started into. So I kind of feel a little bit bad about that, because I feel like I could have handled it a little bit different. But, yeah. So if I made anybody, or if that conversation made anybody really feel that bad, I apologize. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. And there's Niall makes a point. I got to hit this. Niall says, "I have to make a suggestion. People come onto the show for many reasons, but you were talking about a past show, which does not make people feel as though they belong if they have not seen the show. But if they come on and do it again and it causes somebody's death, to me, this is probably more important than anything that I can talk about. So if you're new to the show, here's what happened. Little background. Last night, we talked about medical assisted treatment, a drug called Suboxone, which right now is saving more people daily in this country than probably any other medication. However, it's not saving 300 people a day. And when people come in and stop making comments about this, that keeps people from being willing to try it based on opinion without much fact, then it's a dangerous thing to a lot of people in this country and worldwide who are at risk of dying by the end of today. So that's that. So tonight we're going to talk about a subject, and before we get going, there's something that is just personal. You know, we say to people, if you're feeling like you're in a bad place, you show up and you tell people, right? You reach out and you talk about it, because the points of contact and letting it out instead of holding it in is something that is life-saving often, and certainly sobriety saving. When you're trying to remain sober, bottling stuff up is a really bad idea. I have come to believe that that it really is the key to everything we do here. And I pat people on the back every time it's done. So that being said, I'm in a pretty unusual place, and I think I probably ought to share it. I'm doing well. Everything in life is good. It really is. It's never been better. It really has never been better in my life. And I've been sober now for more than 7 years. I'm doing well with the business. You know, the Lifeboat is growing, and, you know, everything is pretty great. However, you know, there is, and I've talked about this on other shows, my ability to remain calm through situations is something that I wrestle with. And I've been hit recently with 4 or 5 situations that have been very difficult to remain calm in. And if you know me well, you know, Mark, my brother, Fiona, the people, you know, Alan Ballantyne, the people that really know me well have probably seen this. And, you know, I talk about, if you're unable to control your, your tongue, then you're probably unable to control your life. I'm not doing a really good job at controlling my tongue. I'm not doing a really good job at controlling my emotions at all. And I feel like a wild hypocrite when I come on here and do it for an hour. And I get tons of accolades from people that tell me, you know, just how far you've come, but they're not watching me when I'm, you know, figuratively speaking, kicking the cat. I would never do that to, to squirrel, but you understand the metaphor, right? So, and it is something that I really have been struggling with. Brief story. I sent off a watch to get authenticated, because when you sell on certain platforms, they have to prove that the watch is real, right? Keeps guys from selling Tijuana Rolexes for 10 grand. In the process of authenticating this watch, they reached out to the customer and said, yes, the watch is real. However, it doesn't have a limited edition number on the back of it, which is odd. Well, it wasn't a limited edition watch. They make it in 2 styles. The people there didn't know enough about the subject matter. No big deal. The watch gets sent back. We resell it, right? It's frustrating because it cost me a very sizable payday, but it is what it is. However, when they sent it back, it no longer runs. When they took the back off of this watch, they damaged it. And this is a very intricate timepiece, one that probably goes a little past my expertise. More importantly, it has never been serviced by anybody other than the manufacturer. So if I touch it, I'm going to do damage to the financial, the worth of the watch, because it needs to be done by the people that made it. So that being said, I lost my freaking mind today when I found out that they had broke this watch. And now I'm wrestling with the company, because the repair will be thousands of dollars. You know, it's a very, very expensive repair. And it is what it is. The reason I'm telling you this is because if I don't, then, you know, I'm really not doing what I tell everybody else to do. And I spoke to a couple of people today from the boat, and it calmed me down a little bit, you know, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. More than anything in the world, I don't want to be a hypocrite. It feels very similar to lying, which I think is one of the worst diseases in the entire world when it comes to sobriety. So I thought I would throw that out there. I'm trying, people. I'm not always doing a great job, but I'm trying.
Well, I'm gonna throw some insight in there too to this, because I can tell you right now, guys, that I see Tommy a lot, right? A lot more than what you guys can see him, because we work together, right? And I know when he comes and we're talking, like prior to the show, he'll say it in a way that, you know, I really just didn't have that great of a day, and I know what probably happened. something happened, and he really kind of lost his mind. Whether he lost it on somebody or if he was in a room by himself, just throwing stuff around or whatever, it doesn't matter. That bothers him, okay? That's why he's here telling you guys this. And you got to understand that this is him showing you the growth that he's trying to get to. And he's showing you that, hey, we're not only we're just, we say we're just got the two best seats in the house. The fact of the matter is, we're part of this crew too. And we go through the exact same things that you guys do. It's just we're out here, we're using our voice for it, and you guys are allowing us to do so. That's just what it amounts to. And we get so much more from you guys. And I know he said the words, we give him accolades a lot. Well, I'm going to say this too. You deserve some of that stuff, Tommy. You do. Okay? You just do. You're growing.
Thank you.
You're getting better in those kinds of areas. And the fact that you share that, just like I do here too, and everybody in the chat, we're all doing this together. And that's what makes it so special. And
I appreciate that. All right, so let's get to the subject matter at hand. We're going to be talking about mental versus physical addiction. This is not a cut and dry thing. And I say that for a couple of reasons. You very often people say, well, such and such a drug is either physically addicting or it's mentally addicting. Make no mistake that there are drugs that are both. I mean, absolutely. Almost anything that you take to the point of abuse is going to be addicting mentally. However, there are drugs that are going to be physically addicting as well. The ones that jump out at you obviously would be opiates and alcohol, although benzos fit into that. And there are, hey, Stephanie Munoz, good to see you. There are other drugs that are going to have physical addiction that they'll tell you doesn't, right? You will hear very often that methamphetamine is not physically addicting. You'll hear marijuana is not physically addicting. And the truth of the matter is that if you've ever talked to somebody that really abused either, there are definitely withdrawal issues that are physical with both drugs. Working with somebody currently that has been a pot smoker for, I cannot begin to tell you how long. And they quit and didn't try to taper down. They just, put the brakes on, and which my hat's off. That's great. If you want to turn your life around, it's a great way to start. However, I don't think this cat has slept in a couple of months, not even a remotely decent night's sleep in months, because it has gotten to the point where this is a sleep aid. It is, when something is a drug that is abused for really, really long periods of time, it is going to do things to the body that, even if by definition this is not a physically addicting drug, it is most assuredly going to have some physical effects. One of the things you hear, Greg F says, I think mental addiction is harder. I agree with you, believe it or not. The physical stuff to get through is something that there are things that you can do, right, to offset physical withdrawals, right? If you're detoxing from alcohol, the detox protocol that they use with benzodiazepines is going to take a lot of the delirium tremens and a lot of the really tough part of that first period of time, say 7 days. It's going to knock that off, and it's going to get you through that. There's nothing that you're going to do, right, that is going to help with the physical stuff. It really isn't. Absolutely. Tracy says sugar and caffeine. Sugar is the biggest addiction on the planet.
Yes, it is.
Make no mistake.
Ask Alan.
Ask Alan. Yep. And caffeine is absolutely an addiction. And if you don't think that, and Stephanie says sugar is the worst, it is. We've done some shows on it. Make no mistake, it is the worst, truthfully. And there are companies out there doing everything within their power to make sure that they put sugar in sugar, right? It's added now virtually to everything that we eat. And they're not adding it, because they think it's going to make things taste better. They're adding it because it's going to take you straight up, and then you're going to crash. And when you crash, you're going to go back and eat more. And it really is designed for that reason, which is, and yeah, Virginia says sugar addiction is hard to quit. It's damn near impossible because of how hard it is to come across something that doesn't have sugar in it. But so when you start looking at the differences between physical and mental addiction, one of the things that gets overlooked very often is that with physically addicting drugs, there is a component of the mental addiction that is different. And this is not Captain Tommy's opinion. This is something that has been studied ad nauseum. When a physical addiction is something that someone struggles with, it does something to the brain that the quote unquote non-physically addicting drugs don't do. And what it does is, well, it's funny. Niall just said obsession, and that's probably as good a word as anything else. When you are physically addicted to a drug, it permeates parts of the brain that other drugs don't. So when you start to when you start to try to detox off of this stuff, and you get past that physical stuff, right? What then happens is you basically spend the entire day obsessing. You spend the majority of your time awake either obsessing or fantasizing, or it's all encompassing. The term that gets used often is myopic, right? So, which is just the ability to focus on one thing and nothing else. And you become so myopic on the drug itself that other things going on in your life literally can't permeate that wall. You know, you could talk to somebody and say, hey, I really need you to take care of X, Y, and Z. And then once again, you're Charlie Brown's teacher, and you get the wah, 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 because you, as Mark has said so many times, two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, whether that's two cars in the same parking space or two thoughts being carried through your gray matter at the same time. It's an impossibility. So when you begin to get that, all-encompassing obsession, that nonstop myopic desire, or even if it's not a desire, just the inability to think about anything else, basically cripples the addict, right? And this is one of the reasons that, like coming to a group setting and sharing, right? What ends up happening is, instead of trying to fight it, they talk about this a lot in certain types of recovery. Instead of trying to shove this thought out of your head, go ahead and run with it. And it's kind of like trying to swim your way out of an undertow, yep. Right? If you try to fight against it, you haven't got a prayer. But if you let that undertow take you in one direction and you just sort of ease your way back in, it's one of the only things that you can do when that sort of myopic thing takes over. But it requires a lot of honesty, and usually it's not something you can do in a place outside of recovery, if you understand what I'm saying.
Do you,
because go ahead.
Do you remember and I'll give you permission to talk about this, by the way. This is something that happened in the background when I went on vacation, not the last time, but the time before. Do you remember the phone call I made to you?
You do realize I have a big spot on my brain,
I know.
Right?
I'm just saying.
I don't remember yesterday.
Well, I was asking some advice because I had taken.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, you were working in the basement, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and I had extra Suboxone, okay, and I couldn't quit thinking about it. Could not quit thinking about it for no reason, absolutely no reason to think about that stuff. Okay, so I'm 11 years, guys. Okay, so you think that stuff can't skip in there, but it does, and the thing that was different for me is I now had somebody I could talk to about it. And that's big, because the mental part of it, that's what it takes most of the time. It takes communication with somebody that might have a different kind of look on it than what you're actually seeing. Because you're in the situation, you tell them your situation, and they're going to see a different angle than what you're at. And they might be able to give you some advice that's going to help you. And that's exactly what he did. And I quit thinking about it. And again, you have to stay busy, and that's kind of pretty much what you told me that time. And it's amazing that you said that to me, because I say it all the time, and I wasn't even doing it. It's so stupid,
right? Well, and that's one of the I think afflictions of running a channel like this is, I found myself just being really like not listening to any of the advice that we give on a daily basis. And sometimes it's a lot easier to give that advice than it is to follow it, which is why I wanted to sort of come here. But you make a good point, it's, and what you're talking about is a great example. The ability to go to some. There we go. That was 5x5.
That was my fault. Sorry.
That's okay. Do we got a 5x5, everybody?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. It's one of those situations where you can't go to somebody who's never been addicted and say, I can't begin to tell you what a tough day I'm having. Really? What's going on, Tommy? I can't stop thinking about heroin, right? You're going to scare the crap out of whoever you're talking to, for real. And because they have no point of reference to what you're going through, if you get any advice at all, it's not going to be something to draw you into a thought process that stands any kind of chance whatsoever of getting any healing. It's the reason that we say all the time, this is the gold standard, addicts helping addicts, right? Without that, really, you have no chance. And I hope that makes perfect sense to people. Melissa John says, thank you, because she's 6 months detoxed from benzos. Okay. Try having a conversation about that with someone who doesn't understand the concept.
Yeah.
You know, I repair watches for a living. I can call a friend of mine and I can say, hey, the canyon pinion on this, right, isn't working. I was wondering if you could give me some advice. They're going to go, the hell's a canyon pinion? What are you talking about? It's literally the same thing, right? We're speaking a language that nobody understands. Try to explain to somebody how to take apart a carburetor on a car if they don't know what a carburetor is, right? This isn't something that, and if you don't see the parallel of what I'm saying, it's literally the exact same thing, right? To try to explain a phenomenon to someone that not only doesn't understand the phenomenon, but has a prejudice from the word go about that phenomenon, right? When you call and say, hey, you know, I'm struggling. I can't get the thought of heroin out of my head. They don't hear that. They hear, boy, Tommy's weak, right? Not only that, the guy's a junkie. Did you know he was a junkie? Holy crap. How long was he doing that stuff, right? That's just what society has done. You can't even hate him, right? It's what society has done to most individuals. So the importance, especially when you're struggling through these things, to come and talk to somebody so that they can say, okay, let's talk about the fact that, you know, you're obsessing about benzos. Let's talk about the fact that all you can think about is drinking, because you just got to say no, right? Just don't do it. I mean, that kind of simplicity does nothing. It usually sends the addict hanging up the phone, crawling back into themselves where nothing good has ever happened to an addict who hung up the phone angry that the person they just talked to basically spoke down to them or told them that, or worse, gave them the great advice of, well, just say no. You know, why do you want to do it in the first place? You know how many times that, sorry, one sec.
That's okay. It makes it worse on that person sometimes, guys. You know, when they get, you know, conversations like that, if they don't get the right kind of push or the right kind of, you know, hey, sometimes, guys, saying nothing at all is the best thing to do.
You know what? And people say this all the time. I get all the time. People will call and say, you know, I don't have any of these people are looking for answers. And I assure you that the addict isn't looking for answers. They're not. When someone calls and says, I'm hurting, I really want to use, they're not waiting for you to say, well, here's the solution to that problem. They just want someone to listen to them. And they want someone to treat them like the fact that they're hurting doesn't make them less of a human being. The fact that they're hurting doesn't mean that they are somehow defective or they have a character defect or something that makes them weak. They just want somebody to, when they say, I don't have the right answers. Don't have any answers.
Yeah.
Questions are usually better with addicts.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get to where you're at today? Right? Somebody says, I'm hurting. All I can think about is heroin. Questions like, well, when's the last time you used? Right? How did you get to the situation you're in today? What made you decide to quit in the first place? When you start asking questions, do you know what happens? The addict works through the crap in their own head. Honestly, like Mark said just now, when he called on vacation, I had all this great advice. I got news for you people. I didn't have any great advice. What I did was listen to him. And then he came up with solutions and went, thanks, Tommy. I really needed that. It happens every day to me, literally every day. And Mark will tell you the same thing. We get emails from people and we'll reach out to them and talk to them and say, hey, I know you're going through some tough stuff or whatever. Talk to me. And before it's over, I will go, yeah, no, you're right. I get that. I can see that. I can see that. And then they hang up and go, boy, that really helped. Thank you. Right? What's another name for an iPhone power cord? Oh,
yeah,
hey.
Yeah, we got you. Who is this?
Okay.
Juice. Well done, Seventh. Thank you.
Who are we talking
Who do we
to?
got?
Vicky.
Hey, Vicky. Good to see
Hey,
you.
Vicky.
Well, good to hear you. Good to hear you.
Welcome to the deck of the boat, Vicky.
Well, I just been hanging on here.
Yeah, I let you in
Waiting.
earlier, and I went to meet you for a second. And actually, muted Tommy for a minute.
No,
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. It was all good thoughts. It
Yeah.
was all good words. Not a problem.
Cool.
Not a problem.
Cool. So what's up?
Okay. Well, I got a couple things.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just say what I have to say and then you all can whatever.
Shove off, right?
Okay. My generation grew up without computers.
Put us down. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll just talk. Wait a second. Here, I can do this. I know how to do this. Is this better?
No, you sound great. I just started singing the
he was
Who,
making
My
it-
Generation.
Yeah, he was making a joke.
I
He was singing
couldn't.
a song.
Yeah, I couldn't help but you said My Generation, and the Who came to mind instantly. But go ahead.
Be careful, Tommy.
Okay, sorry.
I'm a lot older than you, and I've been around a lot longer.
Nobody's a lot older than me, but go ahead.
Yes, I am. Okay. Since I am from a different generation that did not grow up with computers,
Okay.
we learned to communicate with our voice.
There's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
And because we learned to communicate with our voice, we automatically learned to listen and to talk about our feelings. Unfortunately, my generation is fading away.
Sad but true.
And what's happened is personal voice touch is leaving with it. The sound of someone's voice, any voice, when you're crying out, is healing in itself.
No question.
I will give you an example. When I had my spinal fusion from hell in 2010, I was heavily medicated with pain medications that I was allergic to. And I mean, every morning they come in and take blood work, and 2 hours later, they came in and tell me that something else was wrong. Well, one night I was in there for 9 days. My kids thought I was always going to get out. I couldn't eat. I mean, it was just horrible. Well, anyway, one evening at 10:30 at night, the CNA came in and he said, with the wheelchair.
Uh-huh.
And I says, what's going on? He says, well, we've got to take you to an emergency CAT scan. I said, why? Well, I'd already lost a lot of blood. Well, anyway, they wanted to do an emergency CAT scan because they thought I might be bleeding internally. Okay, so we go on down there, get the thing done. I'd been in there long enough that I could get in and out myself by then and get back to the bed, and tears started rolling down my face. And I patted the side of the bed because I wanted him to sit down beside me. I wanted to hold his hand. People don't understand. Not very many grandkids go see grandparents anymore.
That's a fact, I have to say.
Not very many kids even say happy birthday in a phone call. They'll text it. So think of somebody who may have an addiction. Anybody you know in your family. You know, people who have addictions, in my opinion, already don't have a real good opinion of themselves. That
No
comes
question.
normal.
That's an
with it.
absolute fact.
That's just on point.
Okay, so given that fact, and if the family doesn't even talk to them, or no friends talk to them, that just makes you feel worse.
You know, you
And
bring up
that's
a
what
really
I'm trying to say with the younger
Communication.
generations. I'm not putting down younger generations. I'm just saying, talk to people. If you've got parents with addictions, talk to them. Spend time with them. They're covering up a feeling. We all are on an addiction. We're probably covering up feelings.
Vicky, this
and
is the
it
reason
don't
that
work.
this is the reason that we say that And I think you make a great point. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And
Exactly.
somebody on the boat, actually, and I'm not going to say their name, so I don't think that this will bum them out much, but I was texting back and forth with someone who was describing what was going on in their life and asking for some assistance. And I said, is it cool if I, ring you on this line? And the person wrote, what, call? And I was like, yeah, phone call. And I know the person was trying to be funny, but they said, what are we, cavemen? And, I got a laugh out of it. I understood the humor, but the truth of the matter is I'm not going to get the same thing done texting to someone that I'm going to get done. No, you can't. There's no nuance. And no matter what you type, caring does not come through the same way.
Well, you can't hear the tone of voice. You can't hear the compassion. You can't hear the love. You can't hear the care. You can't hear anything in typed words. You can say, I love you 1,000 times by typing, and it is wonderful. But when my kids say, I love you over the phone, that means more to me than 500 love yous by text.
Oh,
no
my
question.
God.
I think everybody would feel the same way on that.
So I guess what my point is this: talk more, type less. To everybody, you don't know who you don't know who everybody is who has an addiction or who's fighting addiction, who you meet each day. Talk more, smile, say hi, make a joke, anything.
Connect.
Talk.
Yeah, exactly.
People are losing the ability to talk and to communicate with other people, and it's not helping addictions at all. Young kids, high school
I would go
kids,
as far as
they don't
as far as to say that it's causing addiction.
Well,
I mean, to be
was
really
gonna
honest
say that,
with you,
but
to be really honest with you, that's where we're at. And
yeah,
the
we've got kids coming home. I had the same thing happen. Kids came home from school. They called me right away as soon as they got home. The receptionist hated it. She says, don't have your kids call. And I said, forget it. They're calling if they want to. They want to call, they call.
Well, it's kind of
If
like
they wanted
this,
to talk to mom.
And it kind of
What?
like, it's kind of like, actions speak louder than words. It's kind of
Well,
that. It's
kids
kind of that
need
thing.
to connect. Yeah, kids are not adults. Kids are kids. They cannot be expected to have the emotional and mental stability that parents do. So if kids are alone, they've got nobody to talk to, what are they going to do? They're going to get on the internet. They're going to get hooked on something on there, or they're going to be listening to stuff, and they're going to be typing, and no conversation at all.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not bashing, a lot of this. Something on there, or they're going to be listening to stuff. Can you still hear me, or are we gone?
No, we got you. You got to turn your.
we got you twice.
Yeah, you got to turn your YouTube audio off if you could.
And my YouTube audio off.
Yep. Just
Okay,
mute,
just a second.
mute it in your YouTube, and we won't hear it anymore. You'll hear us.
Well, I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's better.
So,
Yep.
talk to kids, talk to your friends, stop texting.
Mute it in your YouTube, and we won't hear it anymore. You'll hear.
Good heavens, just a second. I'll probably lose the whole works.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, you can walk away from that too. If you can walk away from the TV or something, that would work too.
Is this better?
Yeah, I don't hear.
Is this any better?
What's the way?
This is why I hate computers. You know what?
Right now you sound a little bit better. I think you make a great point. Yeah, I think you make a great point. This is one of those situations.
And I don't want to keep, I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but I think you get the idea.
Oh yeah, we got you for sure. I think you make a great point though, like Tommy just said. It is
No
it
question.
is one of those things that I think we've talked about it very few times, but it is something that is very important because when we don't like physically see somebody, like I caught myself even doing it. I didn't see my mom and dad, and they lived like 5 minutes away from me for like 3 or 4 weeks. It was stupid. I didn't realize I was even doing it. It was just me getting wrapped up in my own life, and
Well, listen.
it's just technology. But yeah, I get it.
Well, here's another thing, Mark. I live in a town of 400. It's 4 square miles big. It's in Iowa. We don't have anything to do here but sports. Okay. I have 2 grandkids, 2 of the 5 of my daughters. I've lived here going on 3 years. The family has yet to walk in my door.
That's horrendous. It really is. That's horrendous.
That's horrible.
It's not that they don't love me. They do. But if we don't want this,
I'm with you there, though, Vicky.
We are
That's horrible.
absolutely with you. And you know, Mark, I believe I can actually see Johnny
Yeah,
Scoble.
do you want to be on camera or not, Johnny? I was trying to help you there.
so anyway,
I'm-
I'll get off. I
I'll
think
tell you
we
what.
got the idea across.
Vicky, thank you so
Talk
much.
to
I think that this is a great,
Thanks for calling
it's a
in, Vicky.
great
Appreciate it.
message.
You always
It
come
really
in.
is. It's a
you
great
co-
message.
You come in with some good knowledge all the time. That's really good stuff. Thank you.
Well,
I
don't know,
appreciate
just
that,
'cause
Vicky.
Yeah.
I'm
And it's-
old.
Hey, that's just you're full of
Vintage.
knowledge.
You
Your
like the word
wisdom.
vintage.
That's right. You're full of wisdom.
Well, I love you all so much. So
We love
I'm
you,
going to
Vicky.
hang up.
Thank you for
Okay.
calling and have a great night.
Johnny,
Oh, I'll still be here.
Johnny,
Yep,
I can
bye.
take you off the screen if you don't want to be on. It doesn't matter to me either way. I don't think.
Doesn't matter. You leave me on screen.
Okay. Okay. We'll just leave it like that for now.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
You got to
can.
get me out of here, Mark.
Oh, you want me to get you? Get me out of here. I got you. Hold on. All right.
Johnny, how are you, my brother?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Considerably better. Thanks.
You know, if you stopped using brush for men or that stuff in your mustache, we'd start looking alike. Just for men.
Or if you weren't so old, either one of those
Right.
would work.
Washing
Anyway,
that
I
gray
wanted
out.
to call in and just talk. This is really interesting. The addiction, what's harder, a physical or a mental? And I've been like the most, in all my life, the most addictive stuff I've done was heroin. But that was a lot easier for me to quit than weed was. I never think about heroin, ever. I was so excited to dump it. I never thought it. I don't. But quitting weed, a totally different story. Because that was all, even though I drank a lot, weed throughout my life was always my drug of choice. I don't do that anymore, but that was much harder to quit for me than what everybody else thinks is the most addictive. So, but I think when you have the two together, thank God my drug of choice wasn't heroin, because it would have been a lot more difficult for me.
How about booze? Since you had a problem with that, how would that compare to the other two?
It was interesting. I don't know how to explain that. I've never had a craving. That's been the weirdest thing for me. So quitting booze was the easiest thing in the world. Honest to goodness, I just put it down and never
Okay.
thought about it. Since that phone call we had that morning, never did it. Never thought
So
about
the real struggle for you though was the weed. Do you think any of that had anything to do with the stigma that is attached to heroin versus? I mean, here's the thing: if you say to somebody, "I smoke weed," in today's day and age, there's nobody that goes, "You smoke weed?" Whereas if you tell somebody that you shoot dope, it has a very different effect.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not. Now that it's out, I don't really care. I don't see. As long as you've dumped them, you got away from them. They're all the same. They're all just. They're all what they do up here is all the same. So as long, I think
the stigma of certain things creates issues with some. I've said this before. I feel so badly for people with alcohol use disorder because it's everywhere, right? You're never going to go to a party and have someone, a Christmas party, and right after the Thanksgiving meal, they're going to say, "Get some syringes. Who wants a shot?" Right? But they're definitely going to offer everybody in the room alcohol, and that's. It makes the holidays tough. It makes celebrations tough. And I think that's something that at least in my opinion, I think that that's an issue.
Does
It's funny,
does
from
it?
the show you did just the other day, you said that a couple people from the show are sober. I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. No.
There's some people from the show that are sober and are bartenders. Now, I like being around people that are having a good time. I really do. I don't mind being around people who are drinking. But the second someone's had too much, even if they're not with my party, if they're across the room, the second they have one sip, they shouldn't. I'm like, that's it. I gotta go. I don't like being around people if they've had too much. And alcohol is everywhere. I was in Myrtle Beach, and I was the host of this. It was on the YouTube video, but I was the host of a spicy contest on stage with a ton of people watching. And as soon as I got off, the event coordinator, the guy who owns the company who put the event on, came up to me. He's like, "Oh, it was great. Let me go." And he grabbed me by the arm and he started heading toward the VIP tent while we're talking. I knew what's over there. He's like, "Let me go buy you." We walk all the way up to. He's, "Let me buy you a beer." I said, "I don't drink," and I've learned to say that. I used to say I don't drink anymore, but if you say to somebody, "I don't drink anymore," they're gonna say, "There's a story there." Okay, what does that mean? So when someone says, "You want to drink?" I just say, "I don't drink." And no one ever asks why. They don't push it. They just say, "Okay." But I've learned to say that just because I don't mind telling the story, but I'd rather not. I'd rather just say I don't drink. It's a lot easier.
Both of you hold that thought for 1 second, just because I would like to say thank you, Zen Wen. We really appreciate the support. God bless you. And Summer said that she was at a little intimate wedding this last weekend where everybody did bust out weed, and it was, part of the celebration, and she abstained and managed to walk away from it. And my hat is off to you. If you're able to, to do that in the face of everybody around you, getting high, it says wonders about where you're at right now in your walk. And I think that's fantastic. Good for you. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
You bring that up.
Yeah, John.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, do you find it, the availability of weed versus heroin, does that play in a factor at all? I mean, because weed is just so, I would think it's so much easier to obtain than what it would be to find something to chase the other, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, weed's become so prevalent, it's no different than alcohol.
Right.
Right?
I mean,
Right.
it's literally everywhere. It's legal everywhere. And in the states where it's not legal, there's the Delta, whatever the Delta strain is that they sell anyway. So no matter where you go, it's there. So it's not really, it's catching up to alcohol as far as being everywhere. I don't know. I mean, if heroin was everywhere, it's just, I'm just very blessed. That's not my thing. But
Well, you are. That is a blessing, to be sure.
Yeah.
Annoyed said, he's not clean off of everything yet, but that he's been inspired by the boat. I'll tell you something.
No, it's great.
No problem whatsoever. We've said this a million times, and I just hope that it really comes through and it rings true. I don't ever want anyone to think, well, I can't go there. I've had a couple of drinks, or, I smoked pot today. I can't go to the boat. We're an odd channel in that if you decide you're not going to eat peppers for a little while, you're probably not going to delete my brother's channel. But people who fall off the wagon don't want us notifying them at 5 o'clock West Coast time that I'm able to track this for real. I'll email somebody who says, "Yeah, I fell off the wagon yesterday," and usually within a few minutes of the phone call, I'm gonna drop one sub, because they just don't want this in their face. But we want people here. If you're struggling, this is the place we want you.
You know what I think happens? I remember, this is a true story. I think you may have people that get fired up about this show, and when if they fall off the wagon or something, they're going to unsub. Whoops, hang on. I can totally understand that, because I remember, I'm sober for a lot of days now, but twice before this took, I downloaded the app and started the I'm Sober app. And 3 days in, something happened. I started drinking again. I'd look at my phone, I'd see the app. I'm like, I would delete the app because it made me feel guilty looking at it.
Right.
People are gonna have that reaction. The show reaction is the same thing. It's the unsub, but it's the same thing. When they decide to make that decision again, they'll jump back on and subscribe again. So I can see that happening a lot. But what you're dealing with this channel is very interesting. None of the YouTube things that normal YouTube channels can go with, can you affix to your channel, because it's completely different. For that
So once again in life, I'm not normal.
I think for that reason, I think like for every sub you have on your channel, they should be worth 1,000 because that means so much. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
that's a cool thing to say. It really is. But and I think that, you know, we feel that we certainly do. We certainly don't.
Well, I've got
You
an
know, we don't grade this by the number of subs, but it's nice to see it grow. Go ahead, Mike.
well, I've got an interesting point of view, you know, because I got both. You know what I mean? I got this channel and I have Wages World, and you're right on. You're on point, Johnny. It really is something different, and I've told Tommy that since the beginning of all this, and it is. It's different. It's different in a good way.
Tommy and I were talking about that last night. I really were. I said the people that are on, you know, on the bus, they love me and I love them. But the people that are on the boat, a lot of people their lives are saved here. There's a big difference between the kind of bond you're gonna. And I'm part of that bond. So I'm not, you know, I'm very happy for it. But that's heavy. And you know, to run a channel that I've got, eat peppers.
Yep.
You know, I kind of look at my brother. That's why I'm so proud of you, Tommy. It's like what you're doing is, to me, it's just a big deal.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It is a great resource for me. You know what I mean? I get a lot out of this, and I'll tell you something. To me, one of the biggest things that gets lost in translation is that the number of people on this platform who get helped by people on this platform, you know, is as big as anything that, you know, Mark and I do. And I think that's probably, in my mind, what really separates this channel from all the other channels is, you know, so many times I'll get an email that will say, so-and-so said this in the comments, man. And it just, you know, it struck me, or it opened my eyes or whatever. And, you know, very often it's, you know, it becomes the Johnny show or the Tommy show or whatever. But here it really, you know, very often I think our job is just to get everybody talking, and then the magic happens when everybody starts to talk. That's
on that note, I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. Thank you so much. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Love you, brother.
It's always a pleasure. I love you, brother.
See you all on the boat. I mean it.
Yep.
Talk to you guys later.
See you, bud.
Yep.
And I'm going to say something here too, real quick, guys. I had somebody ask me a really interesting question about 3 months ago. I think I might have mentioned this to Tommy. They asked me, you know, if you had to choose between your two channels and shut one of them down, which one would you shut down? And I didn't even have to think about it. And it's going to shock people when I say Wages World would have to go away. And it might not shock you guys, but it would shock the other 54,000 people over there on my other channel. You know, and it shocks people that don't see what we do here. And I really truly, I didn't even hesitate when they asked me that. It was like immediate, bam, Wages World gone immediately, because I know that we're affecting people in such a great way here, and when that happens, guess what? It's affecting me in a great way, and I have to say that the audience over there is very, very much like what we have here. It would kill me to have to do something like that. But if I was forced to shut one or the other down, it would be, I hate to say it, it would be Wages World. And that was, you know, that was, yeah, you get an identity, and I'm sure Johnny can understand. I know you can understand that now too, Tommy, after being on YouTube for a minute. You get an identity from having your face or just doing a channel. And when that's threatened to be taken from you, or you're asked which one would you get rid of, you know, some people would have to struggle with that decision. Not me. I didn't. It was immediately. This one would be the one I would go with. But I just wanted to say that. So.
I appreciate you. That does bring us to the witching hour, where if we don't get off, we're going to turn into a pumpkin. And the big red button will bury us. We don't want that. I want to thank everybody. Do you know that, I don't know if everybody was paying attention, but I looked down tonight and saw 71. And people, if you knew, again, we're not keeping track, you know, the way that other channels do. But when you think that there are 71 people, you know, in the chat who all want to better themselves and get sober, I remember many a night where we did this for 7, you know, or we did this for 10, and you know, to see this grow is, I'm telling you, there's just not much more rewarding that I've done in my life. And that is just the gospel truth. This is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And I'm so proud to be a part of what you guys have built here, because it is amazing.
And
What do you think?
And I would say ditto, honestly, guys. And I would say this too. 99% of the time when something's coming out of Tommy's mouth, he's speaking for me too. Okay, if he's never not speaking for me, I'm going to tell you. And you probably
And vice versa.
Yeah, and I've probably never even said it. I don't even think I've ever said that. So that's what I'm trying to say. But yes, I think we appreciate each other, and I think it helps also. So, but anyway.
Cujo, that is such a cool thing. Cujo said, "Thanks, gang. A candle in the darkness."
Wow.
That is a beautiful, beautiful thing to say.
Cool.
It really is. It made my night. I think we can
Yep.
we could probably end on that. And the rest of you are chanting for the cat in the basket, which is always a good thing too. We will be back, not tomorrow or the next day, because that is the weekend here on the Lifeboat. Goodness, I went down the wrong tube. We will be back on Friday night. Same bat time, same bat channel. So we will see you here Friday night. In the meantime, if you're struggling, reach out to somebody on the boat or reach out to us. All of our information is in the Dropbox there. We love you. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We are the luckiest two guys on the net. Make no mistake. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
wait for it. And I'm not talking to wait for it. I'm talking about this is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.